Case against Army scientist Bruce Ivins will never go to trial because he killed himself last week as prosecutors prepare to charge him with the 2001 Anthrax attacks. CNN has learned that tomorrow government officials will disclose their case against Ivins and declare it solved, though not yet closed. Since there won't be a trial, the best we're ever going to get a look at is really the circumstantial evidence linking Ivins to the attacks that killed 5 people and sickened 7 others. Since his suicide, some haunting details about Ivins' mental health and the FBI's aggressive tactics have surfaced, along with a lot of questions. 360's Joe Johns tonight goes up close.
The clues implicating Bruce Ivins are compelling, but not, many say, conclusive. Don Clark is a former FBI special agent.
It's not always the big one that comes in. It's the hints that come in early on that keeps them plodding away until they finally get something that they can use.
So what do we know so far? We know Ivins was developing an anthrax vaccine. U.S. officials with knowledge of the probe say investigators used a new DNA technology to trace the anthrax used in the attacks back to Ivins' office. Court documents indicate Ivins was in group counseling, and his therapist was granted a protective order against him. She testified he threatened her and talked about killing people.
He plots and actually tries to carry out revenge killing. He has been forensically diagnosed by several top psychiatrists as a sociopathic homicidal killer.
In fact, court records show Ivins was recently hospitalized at a psychiatric facility, and soon after he got out, he killed himself. Case closed, right? Not so fast. First, it takes a village to handle anthrax. Ivins apparently wasn't the only person with access to the flask containing the anthrax involved in the death. At the biological weapons testing labs here at Fort Detrick, Maryland, according to the New York Times, as many as 10 others did. Second, shortly before the attacks, according to a source familiar with the investigation, Ivins checked out a piece of equipment from the lab that can turn wet anthrax spores into powdered form. Sure sounds strange, but a source familiar with the investigation says Ivins was using it for authorized research. After so many years, there's still great skepticism about this case in Washington, especially here at a U.S. Postal Service facility where 2 postal workers were fatally infected with anthrax. The conservative watchdog group Judicial Watch, which has acted as an advocate for the postal workers, asked the million-dollar question. If the government had so much on Ivins, why wasn't he simply arrested?
The government has a lot of explaining to do. Why did the investigation take so long, and why didn't they get their man? The fact is they had him under their sights for many years, and yet he was out and about and he was able to commit suicide.
If I had been running that show, perhaps I would have thought the same way, is that as long as I've got my eye on the suspect that we believe, and I can perhaps keep that suspect contained, then there's no real reason for me to rush through until I've got it solid.
And in this case, there was extreme pressure to get it right. Paul, remember this guy? Stephen Hatfield. The government very publicly followed him and had the wrong man.
Thanks for coming out today.
It had to pay him a nearly $6 million settlement for the error. But that's just another reason people like widow Maureen Stevens, who is suing the federal government, don't know what to believe.
After Mr. Hatfield, it was almost like something was happening, but I put it down to I hope it's not my wishful thinking.
His lawyer says Ivins was innocent, but with the FBI following him, interviewing his family and friends, that pressure caused Ivins to kill himself. So the main suspect is not around to question. Case not closed. Not yet. Joe Johns, CNN, Washington.
Not yet, indeed. Erica, you're following some other news for us tonight in 360 News.